Failure to provide these funds in a systemic way, in an Indigenous-led way, means that people continue to go missing and often turn up dead.
Tonight, the federal government announces more than $100 million to support families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth come together to create a mural with themes of reconciliation and healing. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. The fourth anniversary of the final report on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is less than 1 week away. With that in mind, Ottawa announced more than $116 million in supports Monday morning. It's earmarked for victims and families of crimes related to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. APTN's Fraser Needham reports.
Hilda Anderson-Pearce is the chair of the National Family and Survivors Circle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hilda Anderson-Pearce. I'm the chair of the National Family and Survivors. She said the funding will allow families affected by MMIWG to access support services across the country. This funding will support Indigenous-led, culturally safe, and trauma-informed family and victim-centered approaches. Individuals and families must be able to access services and supports regardless of where they lived. And this is really critical because we know in remote and isolated locations, opportunities to access services and supports are minimal. About $96 million of the funding will be delivered over 5 years. The other roughly $20 million is ongoing.
Programs
Justice
and
Minister David
organizations
Lametti said one of the key things is the support services will be Indigenous-led.
Indigenous agencies and organizations have the knowledge and the expertise to help overcome the barriers that Indigenous people who are victims of crime face when accessing services and supports. Indigenous agencies and organizations know what they need from the justice system and what they need to assist victims in their healing journey.
Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller added a portion of the funding for families will continue after the initial 5-year commitment, as called for in the final report on MMIWG.
Failure to provide these funds in a systemic way, in an Indigenous-led way, means that people continue to go missing and often turn up dead, or in the case of their families and the survivors, do not get the closure and accountability that that is due. And in turn, they become vulnerable.
Anderson-Pearce said it will also allow families to get more information when a loved one goes missing or has been murdered.
I would say that, it could involve the potential of hiring a private investigator, because I know this has been repeatedly shared with me when I was the director of the MMIWG liaison unit, with the gaps in policing and responses and other mechanisms that are, out there that are not necessarily responding in the way that families and victims are looking for support. So it could also potentially, support legal advocacy too. So
Monday's announcement comes from funds previously announced as part of Budget 2023. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
We want to hear what you think about how these supports could be used to assist the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Voters in Alberta are heading to the polls to cast their ballots in what is expected to be a nail-biter finish between the United Conservative Party and the New Democrats.
Well, I'd love Miss Notley to be our next 4 years, but it won't happen out of our district.
I'm hoping for the Conservatives, but I think it'll be a close race.
It's going to be a record turnout. Yeah, it's going to be lots of people.
The leaders of both the Conservative and NDP parties have been premier before, and Danielle Smith and Rachel Notley are hoping voters will give them a second opportunity. Polls indicate a very tight race. The UCP has strong support in rural ridings. The NDP's base is in Edmonton. According to many political analysts, that leaves Calgary as the key battleground in this election. The number of wildfires is rising in Alberta once again, jumping to 60 on Sunday.
These wildfires were largely due to lightning activity in the northern parts of the province over the last 24 hours. This serves as a good reminder that we are still in wildfire season and with many months ahead of us.
At least 11 new fires broke out over the weekend, boosting the total number of fires so far this year to 529. And with warm, dry weather moving back into the northern part of the province, crews are working on containment lines to prevent fires from spreading. New evacuation orders have been issued in northern British Columbia as hot, dry weather is fueling wildfires burning in the area. Some small communities of oil and gas forestry workers have been evacuated due to 2 major wildfires burning near Fort St. John. BC wildfire officials say people were ordered out as the fire started to shift closer to populated areas on Saturday.
We just didn't feel comfortable with the numbers of people who were in that area. All the work that was being done in the field, both by oil and gas people, but also, in terms of forestry, I understand there might be some trappers in that area as well, and others I might not be aware of. And so, we made that recommendation.
The larger of the 2 fires has already grown to more than 130,000 hectares, or more than 1,300 square kilometers. Almost 9 months after a tragic mass stabbing in James Smith Cree Nation rocked Saskatchewan and the rest of Canada, Chief Wally Burns says they still need healing. APTN's Leanne Sanders sat down with Burns, who was in Winnipeg last week to talk about self-administered policing at an Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs conference.
All right, so we're speaking with Chief Wally Burns, and obviously you've become a bit of a cultural figure, I think, and a really strong leader. 18 years as chief in your nation?
Since 2004.
Yeah, so a long time. How have things changed for you in this past year?
This past year, it did change a lot in regards to my role as chief, and also my family back in the community. I think a lot of people's lives changed since September, and I know that we're slowly rebuilding our lives, but sometimes we do have the thoughts of our missed and loved ones that passed on.
I know you were talking about community policing today. That's been one of your focuses since last fall. Have you made any headway? I know everybody's on the tragedy at the time it happened, but have you made much headway since then?
Dealing with self-administered policing, yes, I think we are on the right track in regards to moving forward. Having our own police system in our community, training our people is the next step, and also having that in that building for our people. Having our own self-administered policing would put a lot of at ease people, especially during the tragedy in James Smith. I think they're waiting for the moment that we do have our own policing, and a lot of unknowns in regards to drug dealers, and that's one of the things that we're going to face head on as regards to chasing them out of our community. And I know it's going to be a huge factor, but I rather have our kids live in harmony rather than hurt and pain, and that comes with the drugs. So I'd rather look at the scenario where the safety of our community members, our safety of our elders, our safety of our youth, and that's one of the objectives that we took as council. I'm very thankful for my council working alongside me in regards to pushing the initiative forward, and that's one of the things that we must bear in fact that we cannot stop.
It's tough to foresee something like that. I think that is a question that's come up a lot of times, like what could have been done to prevent it. And I mean, you can look back and say, oh, we could have done this or we could have done that. Do you see any lessons from that?
Well, I hope that Canada justifies their actions in regards to listening to First Nations in regards to what is going on in their communities, not turning a blind eye in regards to what's the need of our people. So that's all I have to say in regards to the whole process that needs to happen.
Yeah, I think I've seen other articles where you've spoken about the possibility of something like this happening again. I know people have talked about, you know, different areas where it's a problem, and everybody knows it, but so far it's been hard to turn the bus around.
Yeah.
Do you think something like this is a possibility elsewhere?
I pray not. It's very hard on a person and also a community, and especially for the ones, the loved ones that do lose a person. And I'm still dealing with my loss of my parents, and it's been a while, but I still have those moments. And the only way I feel comfort is, you know, going back into ceremony, and that's the way I was taught in regards to healing myself and finding a journey on how to live my livelihood.
Thank you very much for your time today, Chief. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's an honor.
We need to take a short break. When we come back, a look at 2 First Nations women making their mark on the beauty pageant scene. The 5th Annual Indigenous by Design Conference was held recently in Vancouver, and the CEO has some big plans for boosting economic development across Canada. APTN's Tina House was there.
Thank you. We're here at the Indigenomics Designing Conference in Vancouver, and joining me today is Carol-Ann Hilton. Carol-Ann, you've been doing some incredible things. Tell us about what you've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We're here doing the 5th Annual Indigenomics Design Conference. We set out the space to be able to bring conversations, leadership, insight, and action together around how are we designing our Indigenous economies, what are outcomes in the Indigenous economy in the context of a $100 billion national Indigenous economy. 5th year, we're so excited to be able to see the uptake of this. I'm particularly excited to see we'll be hosting an Indigenomics on Bay Street event on November 21st, 22nd, 23rd, hosted at the West End, where we'll be actually bringing a $100 billion Indigenous economy and the concept, the leadership space to Bay Street.
Carol-Ann, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, $100 billion. How does the First Nations Indigenous community in this country unlock that potential?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that these key enablers such as trade, procurement, entrepreneurship, technology, all of those are tools that we're utilizing to build Indigenous economic outcomes, and understanding aspects like clean energy, capital, infrastructure. Those are all unlocking revenue sources and partnerships and outcomes in the Indigenous economy.
Amazing. Talk about some of the speakers that you brought together at this particular event.
Yeah, absolutely. We were able to invite Raven Indigenous Capital Partners to talk about their recent advancement of a $100 million Indigenous Entrepreneurship Fund. We have groups like Bears Lair that are doing youth entrepreneurship camps that are really changing the lives of young people and bringing into focus that young people have the opportunity to use business as a tool to see themselves as an entrepreneur and to see themselves in their own future.
It's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for your leadership, your wisdom, your insight into the future, and good luck with everything. Nice to see you, Carol-Ann. Thank you. Back to you in studio.
A charcuterie business that's 100% Indigenous owned has had its grand opening in Winnipeg over the weekend. It's called Charcuterie, and it's owned by Cassandra Carrero, a registered psychiatric nurse who decided to switch gears and share her passion for food, specifically cheese. All charcuterie boards are locally sourced, from meat, cheese, to fresh or dried fruit. Carrero says she hopes to inspire more Indigenous entrepreneurs to take up space.
I'm very proud to be Indigenous, and it's something that I focused on since I first started my business, was being very vocal about being 100% Indigenous owned. I think there needs to be more of that. I'm so proud that I'm part of this movement, and I hope that more Indigenous people can be inspired to, move into entrepreneurship and open businesses and, take up space.
An Opaskwayak Cree Nation woman is headed to the Miss Universe Canada pageant in August. 21-year-old Madison Moore got the exciting news on the weekend. The University of Winnipeg psychology student recently modeled in the Red Road fashion show at Manitowoc. The winner of Miss Universe Canada moves on to the Miss Universe pageant in El Salvador in December. A Mi'kmaq woman made history as the first Indigenous person to be crowned Miss Canada United World, and she's already giving back to the Indigenous community because, as Angel Moore reports, she was mentoring Mi'kmaq women at the Miss Sabaganagati pageant.
16-year-old Royce Nevin became queen of the Miss Sabaganagati Princess pageant. Placing the crown on her head was Megan Basque of the Eskazoni First Nation.
I'm feeling very confident and proud of myself. It's very empowering for everyone to acknowledge what I just did, and that's just so it makes me very proud of myself.
Just over a week ago, Basque herself was crowned Miss Canada United World. On Friday, she was a special guest at the Miss Sabaganagati pageant. Earlier in the evening, Basque gave words of advice to contestants and says this pageant is different.
For me, competing in these competitive pageants, it's so much different to seeing the pageants on reserve because everything is based on culture, as to where I'm competing that it's not.
For the last month, 13 contestants between 15 and 19 years old made ribbon skirts, learned traditional dances, and connected with community leaders. Cheryl Jihu is chair of the planning committee and a former Miss Summer Games queen. She says all the contestants represent the nation.
So the more we can teach our young women about our culture, our history, our language, the better they are going to be, these amazing matriarchs. They're going to be our future leaders. They're going to be just amazing, and I can't wait to see what they accomplish in life because I'm so in awe of them right now.
Royce will represent Sabaganagati First Nation in the Nova Scotia Summer Games pageant. Allie Martin of the Millbrook First Nation won that crown last summer.
It definitely brought my confidence up a whole lot. I used to be scared to talk on stage.
Contestants were escorted on stage by their loved ones. Rosemarie Nevin escorted her daughter, Princess Kayla Nevin. She says all the contestants are talented.
It would be so hard to judge. I know I wouldn't want to be a judge. They're all so pretty and talented.
Royce Nevin says she entered the pageant for her siblings.
But I wanted to inspire them that if you think you can do it, go do it. Don't be shy and do the best you can.
Basque says pageants help Indigenous women, which in turn helps their nation.
Take this opportunity to be a role model and inspiration for our youth, for their youth in the community as well. I think that's a big part, and volunteering and giving back to charities, I think it's a big part in pageantry.
Basque will represent Canada in the United World pageant in Texas in September. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Sabaganagati First Nation.
Congratulations, Royce. Looks like it was a very talented group competing. Well, we need to step aside for one more short break. Coming up, everyone is ready for the North American Indigenous Games.
These are some of the best athletes from around North America.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Our viewer Aldina Laquette took this shot of a bald eagle looking straight at her near Skownin on Waterhen Lake in Manitoba. Keep these pictures coming in, folks, for a chance to be our next photo of the day. Email your photos to share@aptn.ca or tag APTN News on Instagram. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the East Coast, we've got 12 degrees in St. John's, 21 degrees in sunshine in Charlottetown. Kuujjuaq, 21 degrees and rain there. Nain, 7 degrees. Chibougamau, 28 degrees and sunshine. Quebec City, 27. Toronto, 30 degrees and sunny there. North Bay, same thing as well, 30 degrees. Kapuskasing, 32 degrees and sunshine there. Big Trout Lake, you're going to see some rain, 24 degrees. Churchill, 23 degrees. God's Lake, 23 degrees and some rain. Dauphin 25 degrees and rainfall there, Barons River 21. Regina 28 degrees and sunny, North Battleford rain 27 degrees. Stony Rapids 24 degrees and sunshine there, LaRange rain 24. Fort Chip rain 21 degrees, High Level 21 degrees and rain there as well. Red Deer 23 and rain, Lethbridge sunny 29 degrees. Tofino 18 degrees and rain there, Campbell River sunny 22. Fort Nelson 18 degrees and sunshine, Smithers 14 degrees. Dawson rain and 14 degrees, Beavers Creek rainy there as well at 11 degrees. Yellowknife 16 degrees and sunny, Fort Simpson rainy and 21. Colville Lake 14 degrees, Inuvik 19 degrees and sunny. Bakers Lake 6 degrees, Chesterfield rainy 3 degrees. Aglulik -2 and sunny there, Arctic Bay 3 degrees, -3 and sunny. The venues are mostly ready and thousands of volunteers have signed up. The North American Indigenous Games start in less than 2 months and organizers are excited about the advanced level of preparation. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
HRM councillor Tony Mancini says the North American Indigenous Games will not compare to any previous event in this region.
It's the biggest sport event we've ever hosted in all of Latin Canada. There's over 5,000 athletes.
Plus support staff and coaches. The Games will feature 16 different sports with 3 traditional Indigenous sporting events.
We're ready to go right now with the venues. They're all set.
Athletes will compete at numerous athletic facilities, mostly around the HRM.
These are some of the best athletes from around North America. A lot of them are on Division I scholarships and even higher. The level of play is an extremely high level.
The opening ceremony at Scotiabank Centre on July 16th will be one of many events connected to Indigenous culture within the 9-day duration of the Games.
It's going to provide something for people to want to stay or come to the city for in mid-July.
Volunteer registration has been an off-the-charts success.
Our target was 3,000, and as of today, we're over 3,800 volunteers in our system.
CEO Brandon Smithson says more volunteers are needed, and those who sign up will perform important duties. Last year, the World Sprint in Paracanoe Championships took place here on Lake Bannock. Big picture, that's a built-in advantage and momentum builder for the North American Indigenous Games. This event and surrounding community has been prepared in advance for this event, and it's already ready to be up and running for another World Championship showcase.
And the Games are now just 47 days away. APTN knows we'll have a team out in Halifax for NAIG with plenty of coverage over the 9 days of Games. A mural that showcases the work of a new generation of Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth working together was unveiled over the weekend in Winnipeg. The mural graces the side of Harrow United Church in River Heights, a middle-class neighborhood. It depicts themes of reconciliation and healing. The group of Indigenous and non-Indigenous young people worked on it over the winter with other artists and an elder. It's hoped that their work will inspire other reconciliation projects throughout Winnipeg. And that's all the time we have for your Monday Night News. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly. Thank you very much for joining us and have a great night.